Welcome, everybody, to episode 29 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Pods. This is my co-host, Mark.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday.
Cold Monday.
Yeah, very miserable weather, back-to-back Mondays. Monday's our recording day. My goal with the podcast and the book is to help a younger generation cut short the success time that it took me. It took me almost 20 years to reach that highest of highs when you have the respect, you have the money, you have the package, you have everything. But it took way too long for me to get there. So the goal is to dive into the book and pull some tips out that could actually help younger people get to the goal, end of the goal a little quicker. That's the goal.
Great. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate being your co-host here. Get a chance to meet some really interesting people, and I think we're going to do that today as well.
You know, I was driving home from Philly yesterday, so I listened to the podcast with Rabbi. I was laughing. I was intrigued. I was like, he was a really good guest. Who would have thought? And you and I come in a different world, but Rabbi is selling. He's out there trying to build his flock, and he needs to network.
It's all the same. All networking, all building a business.
Yeah, it was an interesting contrast, and I'm really glad we did it because sales is in everything.
But remember, I'm CFO.
You're a CFO salesman.
Selling CFO.
All right, it's Monday morning. Sports moment of the weekend. You go first because you had a great experience.
Sure, I was at the Met game. We had a Met sweep this weekend, which is nice.
That was awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm not a Dookie, so watching them collapse wasn't the worst thing in the world.
That hurt
as well. So yeah, the Met sweep though, I'll take that all day long.
I enjoyed that very much. My whole family's Met fans, everybody.
Right.
Grandpa, uncles, nieces, and everybody's always cheering. And we have a family chat on our text, and it's always, go Mets, go Mets.
The fact that my daughter watches every Met game and post-game interviews is like a blessing. I don't even know what to say. It's like a gift.
I had a couple. The Mets were one of them. The Islanders, we were just chatting about that. Got to see Ovechkin break Gretzky's record, and it was class across the board.
Was it a legit goal?
Legit goal, slap shot, 110 miles an hour. I was sitting in the end zone where it was shot, so I saw it coming. The place was so respectful. The league did a great job. Just hats off to the Islander players and the management because they really made it. They stopped the game for 20 minutes.
Right.
He had Adam said on the ride here, would they do something after the game? Like, no, man, they just shut the game down, rolled out the red carpet. Next thing you know, Gretzky and Bettman are on the ice, and it was a pretty cool to do. Yesterday also was bittersweet because we're big basketball fans, and my daughter goes to the University of South Carolina.
Right.
They were looking to repeat.
Yep.
But they're my adopted team.
Right.
My favorite girls is UConn Huskies.
Well,
and they won.
I didn't realize that was the first championship since 2016.
9 years, longest of his.
Yeah, crazy, right?
And he has 12 now.
Gino's still there, right?
He's still there. That was his 12th title.
Right.
But I didn't cheer loudly, because my wife's a diehard Gamecocker.
Was your daughter going to the games at all? Or
no.
Okay. No, listen,
she's in the frat lot somewhere, but she's not.
Okay.
So relevance to life, we do this show based on things that are going on in my life. So chapter 11 is about conferences and trade shows. And I know last week we focused on trade shows, but this week I'm focusing on a conference because I stepped out of my comfort zone. I drove to Philadelphia to be part of a relocation organization, and it was get there on Wednesday. There was a networking opportunity, happy hour. There was only 15 of us, but I showed. What it did, it gave me running room to know people for the event the next day.
Yeah, warms you up.
Warms us up.
Yep.
They liked me so much they invited me for dinner.
Right.
So 8 of us stayed on after the happy hour, went out to dinner. I made my presence. I got uncomfortable. I met a lot of nice people that I didn't know, but it gave me an edge the next day because the next day all the first-timers are wearing their tags saying first-timer, and none of those people had the introductions that I had already got.
How many guys that you work with do the level of networking and events that you do?
None. They do a minimum. They do the bare minimum.
And I'm surprised that, because I've always said this, I'm like, you have the blueprint where I feel like a lot of people should be following that, and these guys aren't making numbers like you.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it's not basically saying, hey, look, here's the blueprint. do what this guy does.
So I learned something new, and that's why I'm going to share it today. It's in the book, but it's something that happened. These were all mid-level managers for the relocation industry.
Right.
The night before, this guy David was there. He was a VP. He flew in from St. Augustine's.
Okay.
It was a big to-do. You could see he was somebody. He commanded the attention in the room.
Right.
I was drawn to him, absolutely drawn to him, but not in an overbearing way. So we spoke for a few minutes, and then I watched the next day, the entire day. My eyes were on him. And it was really cool to be the alpha guy, knows he's the top dog, and I had to treat him differently than I would all the other people that I connected with, which was 12 people, got their business cards, asked if we could have a follow-up call. All 12 said yes. I was thinking about approaching him like that, and after having spent time with him the night before, I remembered that he's a golfer and he belongs to the St. Augustine golf course. So I thought long and hard, and at the end of the show on Thursday, I went up to him and said, hey, Dave, I might be down in Florida next month. Maybe me and you could head up to your club, grab some lunch. And like you could just see, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Very nice.
I had no plans to go to Florida, but now I do.
Yep.
I'm going to make a trip down there just to be able to have that meeting because he has 60 or 70 subordinates under him that are doing the relocation for the company.
And you played it like a nonchalant, not a big deal. Yep.
I'll be that exactly. It was more that because you could see he commanded that respect.
But if there was a lesson learned, imagine you did that when you were 25.
Right.
Right. So,
absolutely.
So, and I think if anything, when you push the podcast and the lessons learned, it's that confidence and when we say not being afraid to go because at the end of the day, and I learned this in my world, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time.
Yes,
they might have an ego, they might have this.
Sure.
At the end of the day, you know, as you realize that there's really this guy might have this position, there's really no difference. And as you treat people, whether you're the janitor or the CEO, I think that gives you an advantage as we go forward.
And I modified my pitch. That's the other takeaway from that. I modified my pitch. I had to be thoughtful.
100%.
And it was direct because it was funny. I was trying to see his name. No one knew his last. I couldn't get his last name. I couldn't see his tag until finally the end. I'm like, okay, so I got his last name. I'm going to check them out on LinkedIn. But again, it was nice to be around an alpha who warranted and commanded that room the way he did. That was pretty cool. So the takeaway action statements from Chapter 11 is the trade show pregame. And my pregame was the happy hour and making an impression on complete strangers to invite me out to dinner.
Well, I think the thing is, it's people look at it's happy hour. It's not really happy hour, right? It's really preparation hour.
Correct.
And I think I think you bring up a good point. And if we're talking real value, when people think about, I got to go to happy hour, I'm gonna, when you're younger, it might be, I'm gonna have a bunch of drinks. Can't do that.
Can't do that.
And as you have a more mature mindset, it's saying, hey, wait, this is a chance for me to prep, get in there. It's almost like pregame. And then you're set up for tomorrow.
Yeah, it was awesome. There's on page 106 in the book. There's a whole list of pregame stuff, but again, right out of the box, did what I say, worked it, and like I said, next month I'll be going down to St. Augustine for
just
2
like
days.
you always were planning to be. Yep.
Yeah, like I did with South Carolina, just like I was always planning to be.
Makes total sense.
So, networking tip. You're really good at this. You give your networking tip, and I'll give mine.
Well, I think you just hit on it a little bit. I think don't be intimidated. Show respect. I think there's a part where you kind of know your place. Like as a 25-year-old dealing with a 50-year-old, you just don't have that level of experience. But that doesn't mean there's any difference. It's the way you carry yourself, have that level of confidence and maturity to approach somebody. And again, we've said this on every pod. Don't be scared to go outside your comfort zone. Right. And I'll give you credit, man, because this podcast now makes me do stuff where I'm like, I don't want to, no, you know what, I got to be uncomfortable.
I got to be uncomfortable.
Hey, what would Ed do?
What would Ed do? Ed would go. Ed would go. But you had said it last week when we spoke about Vegas, fill your schedule when you're traveling with networking.
100%.
Something important, something, like I said, I knew I had somewhere to go.
Right.
You know, I drove into town. I was there 2 in the afternoon. Checked in the room. I knew I had somewhere to be at 6 o'clock that night, and I didn't get home till 10 o'clock. So it wasn't just 6 o'clock; it was 5 hours.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think if you're in a younger position and you're going to go to a trade show, it makes sense. Just don't let it just come to you.
Right.
Anything you can do in advance, fill your schedule.
Create your own magic, baby. Create your own magic. Trade show tip, and again, mine is simple. Don't treat the VP the same as you would a manager or someone who's below him.
And I would just say, don't be scared.
Correct.
To approach the VP, the president, the CEO, the CFO.
Don't do it the same way you do everybody else.
There's a level of doing it, but listen, I'll tell you, I get pitched a lot. And when a younger guy comes to me, maybe when I was, 20 years ago, I went listen to the pitch. Now, when I get pitched, I enjoy it, and I respect it. And I learned, and I don't want to veer, but in the security world, they used to do door knocking, and they used to say for every 100 doors, if you got one door that answered, that was it. Those guys now, even where I live, they come and door knock. I listen to the pitch.
Want to hear it.
Yeah, and sometimes they even offer jobs. Yeah.
I have a lot of the kids in the neighborhood that they drop off selling the candy, and I'm like, all right, I got $5. Yeah. I want to hear it.
Right.
Love it. Love it. All right, it's tequila time. We're right on time. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have our guests come out. Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Pod. This is Mark. This is our guest, Adam Holtzer. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Got the trio of Comac folks here today. This is the second time, actually, back-to-back weeks.
I'm excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
So, tequila time is a celebration time. You're going to use your cup right there.
A cup of water.
I'll describe it in a sec. Let's do our shot. Tequila time is about old and new. Something that we have done a certain way for a long period of time. This is the way everybody does it. This is the way we do it. And then all of a sudden the new generation comes in and there's things that we do differently. So every week I just try to pick out something. And it's really based on what I'm doing tonight. So I'm going to a fundraiser tonight. And, normally it's in a restaurant and, you just have a table and it's just mundane. It's just, we've been to 100 networking events at restaurants. This is for the Alzheimer's Society. My networking group, we bought a 10-seat table. This is a whiskey and cigar basketball watch. So we're going to watch the championship basketball game that's on tonight, which is college basketball. For those of you who don't know, March Madness comes to an end tonight. We're going to have some steaks. We're going to have some whiskey. We're going to have some cigars. And we're going to enjoy our evening.
And you'll be rooting for?
I don't give a fuck at this point. I was expecting to see my Dukies in it, and I'll go with the Gators because my kids like Florida and stuff. But I was very frustrated with the Dukies losing it. But again, people are trying to get more creative in the networking world. They're trying to host at different kinds of places. What's that place in Hauppauge? Expectations, or they have simulation.
It
used to be Simplay.
Correct.
I believe they recently rebranded as the Experience.
Yeah,
the Experience. There you go. So, and that's what I'm seeing, where the old boring happy hours are out, and we're going to try to do more, not extravagant, but maybe fun things,
different things
to capture your attention. And it's funny because when we initially asked everyone on our team who wanted to be part of the 10-people table, we got such a poor response that we only got 5. We got paid for 5 guys to go. And all of a sudden on Friday, everyone's like, hey, I want to come. Hey, and now we're up to 12 seats. And we're paying for the whole thing for everyone, so it's no big deal. But all of a sudden, hey, that event sounds pretty cool. So that's that. We talk about our best business decisions and our biggest wins of the week. I'll let Mark go first on best business decision this week.
Sure. So I'm going to go a little different this week. So I had an opportunity to go to a big trade show in Vegas.
Right.
I did not go, okay? Because instead I went hardcore, minor board meeting with hardcore strategy and pricing discussions and whatnot. It was a big pain in the ass. 10 hours of driving, got it done, but it was a very good thing for our business.
Where'd you have to go?
I went up to Massachusetts.
Oh.
Yeah.
You didn't fly, you drove?
Well, I took the ferry one way.
Okay.
And I had to make it back at a certain time, and the ferry didn't work the right way.
So you drove around.
Through traffic Fridays. Yeah.
So that was your best business decision?
Best business decision was not being afraid to have a pain in the ass 24 hours.
You knew the journey was going to be rough.
I knew I had to do what I had to do, get it done, focus like hardcore right in a conference room, putting up numbers, bing, 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 bing. I could have been in Vegas, had a good time, but this is what had to be done from a business perspective, so I'm happy I did that.
I did see Sharpview posting.
Sharpview did a bunch of stuff, yeah.
You
were sacrificing pleasurable experiences for pleasurable results.
Well, in essence, but I had to be on. It was like every now and then I got to pretend to be a real finance guy, and this was one of those situations where you really want to focus to drive the business.
For me, it was going to Park, that Philadelphia relocation organization, making that decision to spend 3 days and not be the people that left at 5 o'clock and ran out the door.
Right.
So I stuck around. I stuck around for drinks again, stuck around for more people, stayed around till 6 o'clock, went back to my hotel, chilled out. I worked it, I'll drive home tomorrow.
Right.
You know, and that was really a really smart decision, because my Friday was beautiful. What about you? Best business decision of the week?
Best business decision of the week was to reflect. I had a really big meeting on Friday with my 2 partners, and it was a very pivotal meeting, which went in a great direction, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And it was really just reflecting and being intentional with my time to make sure not just that we're all on the same page, but to really, now we're in the growth scale of the company.
That's great.
That's awesome. And last but not least, big win of the week. So I had 2 really big wins last week, and one started in December.
Okay.
Reached out to a guy in Minnesota, school district, facilities manager, and again, my team doesn't do what I do. When I call and I speak and I say, let me call you back, when? And they say, call me back in February. And I call back in February, he's, not yet, Eddie. You're good, I'll call you when I'm ready. That means don't bother him again. In my world, that means you just wait for them. So I waited 6 weeks. He called Friday while I was driving. I need 22 containers. I'll send you all the specs over. Let's get it done. I was like, bam. And then when I got home, I had this, we call it daisy chain. That's when we move a storage container city to city to city. Yep. But it's for a whole year, and it's 7 locations, and it's about $18,000, which for me is a big win. But to be able to have all the answers to all the questions before they say yes, like, okay, I have 3 last questions, and this will determine whether we use you or not. And you give them the 3 answers that you know are the right answers, and those are the answers they want to hear, and you win the business. So,
got it.
What about you?
Big win, again, we can never mention like names or whatnot, but we landed a national retail chicken chain as part of SEM Holdings, which we're excited about. All these things, our sales cycle takes a long time and whatnot, but excited. Kind of business, I'm not, business as usual, but if we could do that every week, then we got a real deal going on. So. And
what about you? Big win of the week?
Big win was clarity. I'll go back to the partners meeting that we had on Friday, and we've been in business now 3.5 years. We started the inception idea 5 years ago, so we're coming up on year 4, and really clarity. You don't know what you want till you know what you don't want, and when you know what you don't want, then you have the clarity to go in the right direction.
Well, if I could jump right in. Yeah. So talk to me about, 5 years ago, what happened that you basically made the jump and said, hey, I'm starting a business, and get me from where you were to how you made that leap? Sure.
So in January of 2020, I have a consulting practice where we specialize in business development and networking strategy. Mm-hmm. And all my clients are entrepreneurs, and I would always do a needs assessment to understand what they are enjoying in their business.
What was your typical client, per se?
Typical client was a small business owner, less than 10 employees, that did not have a business development team, and they didn't really have anyone that was helping them with their time management of where to spend their time, how to spend their time in business.
Right, so the owner was like the guy who was doing all the work too, and then trying to grow the business type deal?
Yep, and as the owner would grow and be able to retain staff and delegate, they still really needed to be the one that was specializing in, we talked about a friend earlier that is, the chief business developer of development officer of their company, and
Right.
they have to be the one doing it, but they have other people behind the scenes that are doing the other aspects of it. So a lot of my clients were small business owners that didn't have $150,000, $200,000 to spend
Right.
on a business developer or a sales professional, and they wanted to be better at their time management so they could have better results. So
Okay.
I would do a needs assessment. I would ask a lot of questions. I love asking questions to learn about the business, because when you know a lot of the behind the scenes, it allows you to make better decisions and suggestions you're going to make. And a lot of my clients did not enjoy the landscape of networking as an entrepreneur. I'm not a big networker. Like, I will network and I will go out and network, but I'm not a fan of networking groups. I've never been a fan of being pitched to. I know that you guys said as you get older, you
Yep.
enjoy being pitched to a little bit more. I never liked someone just handing me a business card. I never liked someone just trying to get into my book of relationships. And I found that whenever I was doing these needs assessments for my clients, they weren't really happy with the landscape of networking either as a business owner. And then in January of 2020, I held 8 focus group think tanks. Each one was 2 hours long.
Was COVID? Was that pre-COVID?
It was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
So COVID didn't happen until
March
about 2
15th.
months
Okay.
after that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had about 200 business owners over the course of 8 days. About 25 completely different business owners. Spend 2 hours from Monday to Thursday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at my office, my big round table, and I started off each think tank as a focus group saying, I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, the magnificent of networking. What you enjoy, what you wish there was more of, less of, some of, and none of. And then shut up, took notes, and listened. That was really it. And about a month after doing all this behind the scenes, we learned about the culture of hygge, which is a Danish lifestyle philosophy that means being comfortable, warm, welcoming, being yourself, not playing any charades.
And how'd you learn about that lifestyle?
So my co-founder and I, we love the outdoors. We love comfortable, like dim lighting. This is not hygge lighting. This is very bright lighting.
Got it.
But, you know, being comfortable, being cozy. You think of like a blanket ladder.
Okay.
Think of, you know, dim lighting, you know, kind of easing the night off or having a candle lit. That just kind of
Relaxing and like walking into like a spa area or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was really the common factor that we found that business owners were not happy with the landscape of networking, because it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't very friendly. It was a little bit forced. You know, there was a lot of charades. People maybe afraid to be authentic or be themselves, not being genuine.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I would hope so. And then fast forward, so we learned about this culture in February.
But is this culture something that they're recruiting people to spread the word of this hygge, or is this just something
No,
you
it's just
stumbled upon, some philosophy?
Stumbled upon the philosophy.
Got
So
it.
Scandinavian countries, if you ever Googled happiest places in the world to live,
Yep.
top 3 are usually Denmark, Finland, Norway.
Yep.
None of them are really famous for anything. It rains more than half the year. They have the highest taxes in the world, but they're the happiest places to be. And we did a little bit more of a deep dive to understand why that is. And we found that it was really based on the culture. And one of my clients has a great saying, you know, maybe he'll listen to this now because I'm going to say it. I'll give him a shout out. Culture trumps whatever else you want to say. Tactic, strategy, and really building a culture was what we wanted to do for business owners, because at the end of the day, you know, if you're not around people that you want to be around, or if you're not in a motivating, inspiring environment, you know, you talk about networking groups are going out for, you know, whiskey and bourbon and cigars, but if you don't like the people that you're with, then
It's
you really
painful.
just,
Yep.
yeah, it's painful.
Yep.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to be uncomfortable and go out with people you've never met before. You never know who you're going to meet.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that part, but I am disagreeing with if you know that something is not a fit or a vibe for you, or you've been there, done that type of a thing, going back to you don't know what you want until you know what you don't want. But
Right. So you're in a round table. You guys come up with you know, the focus
Philosophy.
groups. And so how do then what happens?
So we were like, wow, the word hygge is really spelled H-Y-G-G-E, which is an extremely tough word to pronounce.
Right.
And we wanted to come up with a brand that said what we are and who we are, not just, you know, a name. So we came out with the spelling hygge. The way we spell it is W-H-O-G-G-G-A, and the who stands for who are you as a business owner. So our membership
Not the Who, the
subscriptions.
band?
No, but it's a fantastic band. If you think about the Who, not the band.
Talking about my generation.
what makes you you? Your hobbies, your interests, your passions, your family, your vision, what you want out of life. A lot of networking organizations have company memberships, and our membership is not a company membership. It's a subscription specialized for the owner themselves.
Okay.
And that's the who. And then the 3 G's, I always say triple G, but it stands for grind, grow, and gratify, which are the evolutionary stages of an entrepreneur's journey. First, you're grinding, hustling to make it. Then you're growing, you're mastering your craft, and then you're gratifying to make a difference and give back.
Well, I actually really like that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Thank you. And then the A, I tell people it stands for either awesome or for Adam. Not combined.
Awesome, Adam.
My co-founder Greg, he spells his name with 3 G's, G-R-E-G-G. So I'm like, dude, you get 3 G's in our company's name. Like, I got to have at least 1 letter.
Right.
Interesting.
So you basically launch.
We didn't launch. So we developed a custom app.
Okay.
So our developers are the builders of Facebook groups and Facebook communities.
Okay.
And we did a significant amount of research before, when you're doing research of building a business, you really don't want to make any mistakes. And the amount of time and effort that you put into it is going to hopefully slingshot where the business is going to go. And my co-founder and I, his name is Greg, the 3 G's, and he's big into systems, operations, workflows, technology, processes.
Right.
And we interviewed a significant amount of app developers. And we started, so when COVID happened, as you said, March 15th of 2020, we had all this data, we knew what people wanted. My consulting business was doing very well at the time, and then literally it was a nosedive. My consulting business went from up here to down here.
Got it.
And it was a matter of what now? And my co-founder and I decided to start building and developing and putting 100% of our effort really into this.
So what does the app do?
So the app is a private vetted community. So if you think of Facebook or LinkedIn, it's a private Facebook / LinkedIn for our members. So our members need to apply. They go through a vetting process. We only have about a 70% acceptance rate. We're not industry exclusive or category exclusive. All of our members that are in marketing, legal, health and wellness, finance, they all collaborate with each other. They all share what they're going through. They talk about clients. They talk about their systems, their pricing. So if you think of that abundance mindset versus traditional networking is usually very scarcity. I don't want someone else in my group that does what I do. I don't want to talk. I don't want someone else potentially taking a piece of my pie. And our culture, once again, using that word, is more so focused on developing and collaboration, not competition. So to answer your question, our members are, community is not industry or category exclusive.
Right, they could be competitors, but it's basically to work together.
And they have to be, that's one of the questions that we ask is like, are you willing to be part of a community? Because if you think of that word community, it's not just,
Well, from what I've seen, and I run a networking group of 32 members, and categories are set aside, but we try to grow the brand. So we had this person who recently didn't see the bigger picture. She was a printing company, local little pip shop, and we wanted to bring in a marketing company who did printing as well, but said, I'll give you whatever printing I get from this group. This way we could both be in the group. And she was like, no. She was so selfish. We did everything we could to force her out. We did. Like you were saying, how you ask people to leave your organization. We discussed that on the way here. We made it that she would leave because she wasn't being a team player. She wasn't caring about anyone but her slice of the pie. And that's not what, we're there for a higher purpose. Our higher purpose is to donate to charity. That's why the name of the group is called Networking for Charity. And when you have people who put their own interests above the charity, we have no use for you.
Yeah, culture eats strategy.
Yeah, man.
And I think, so our membership is a month-to-month membership for a couple different reasons. Number one, if we're not the right fit, we don't ever want someone to feel hostage.
Right.
That's the last thing.
Right.
Bad apple will spread.
Right.
And then
it's subscription-based model, but it's basically subscription-based if you feel that there's value created.
It's a monthly renewal.
Right.
We look at it that way.
Yep.
And then vice versa, if someone's not complimenting our culture, then they're complicating it. So a quote that my dad has is, something is not complimenting, it's complicating. And we will respectfully ask them to leave. And we had to do a little bit more in the beginning. Our vetting process has gotten a lot more solid since we launched.
Probably a tough conversation asking someone to leave, right?
It's not always a hard conversation because think about it like your children. Like your business is your baby. And if you know that something's the right decision for your children, you're going to make the decision, you're going to have that hard conversation. One of our sayings is hard conversations lead to easy times, easy conversations lead to hard times. And I'd much rather have a hard conversation that leads to easier times and makes my community a better culture, then
So you've said a couple things already that I really like. That's another saying I like. The hard conversations lead to easier times. And very accurate.
yeah, it's a challenge. But
A lot of times people are scared to have the hard conversation. And outside network, just people are scared and they defer and they'll send have an email or send all that nonsense.
I had that the past 3 days. I was holding on to something at work where some guy on my team took an account that was mine, and I went to my boss and he said, well, you go have a conversation with him. I'm not getting involved. You go figure it out. Basically telling me to go take care of your own problems. I don't want your problems. And I avoided it for 3 days, and I got the guy on the phone today. I was wrong. It was his account. It wasn't my account. But I was delaying that hard conversation until I said, fuck it, I'm going to have that conversation Monday morning, going to start my week off with whatever lands from it. And it was humbling because it wasn't.
It brings you closer together also. And it's an educational moment. Not all hard conversations is a right or wrong. It's really a learning ability. I've had hard conversations, and one of the most challenging things in my community is, we have about 150 members, and they're all business owners. And if somebody is doing something that's, I'll use the word kosher. We're talking about matzah delivery coming up.
Sure. Yep.
And if something happens, then what's going to stop them from doing it to someone else? What's going to happen? What if the next person doesn't say something? And I'd rather have the conversation. I'm not mean about it. I'm very nice and friendly and respectful.
Right.
But I'm having this conversation, and if I ever did something that deserved a conversation like this, I would expect you to have a conversation with me like this.
So I just want to make sure I'm following. So COVID comes, consulting business, and now you've got developers, and you guys make the leap. So you actually launched during COVID, or?
Yeah, we launched. So we did a soft launch in June of 21.
Okay.
So from June of 21 to August of 21, we invited in our first initial 25 members. Once we invited in our 25 members, we only invited in about one new member a week for the first 2 years.
And how'd you find the members to invite in?
So the first 25 have honestly just been ride or dies, really close friends, people that we've done business with.
Friends and family, for the most part.
It was, no, I wouldn't say family. It was friends that felt like family.
So when we raise money from a finance side, usually we go to friends and family is what we call it. Yeah.
Your friend or our friend?
Yeah.
It was tough because finding 25 people, and not all of them were a perfect fit. Within the first, let's say, 6 months, maybe we had to ask some of them to leave, or some of them left on their own. But it was really challenging because there's a term in marketing called pattern interrupt, where you interrupt a pattern that people are used to. And being that we're month to month, being that we're exclusive to business owners, being that we're not tracking leads or referrals, we're not an event experience company. So before you got into the win of the week and so forth, you were talking about the event that you're going to tonight. And I'm a big fan of substance, and I don't mean substance of the tequila. It's more so nourishment.
My tequila.
Hey, listen, he's cool, man. I want to put a little do-rag on Hoogie. But it's easy to get sidetracked.
No.
It's good.
Yeah.
Where was I?
Yeah, go ahead. That's another question.
No. So what you're saying is you had the 25 people, the ride or dies.
Yeah.
Right, and basically where some of them didn't fit in, and basically so you launched during COVID.
It's 2022 now. Where are we in 2022?
So 2022, we had about 50 members. Our acceptance rate was probably around
How are you getting
60.
new members? Like, is that all through you guys?
So we have a phenomenal. So we don't do any outbound marketing. We're big into branding.
Okay.
Our branding is huge. We have a phenomenal marketing and branding team that's been with us since the day we started. We've actually evolved that branding team. We've continuously brought on to complement, different services and things that we need. But so since we're a highly vetted and private community, like I can't say like, hey Mark, you should join.
Right.
I can say like, hey Mark, I think that getting to know you and building a relationship with you, I really think that you'd complement our community, and I'd love for you to give us a chance. Why don't you apply, go through our vetting process, and see if it's a good fit for you. And if for any reason it's not a good fit, it's month to month, you can leave at any point, but I can guarantee you that you're going to meet some phenomenal relationships. And when we were starting this, going back to the initial question you asked, the pattern interrupt before I went to
just remembered.
Yeah.
Lasered.
So my co-founder Greg and I, we said, anybody that's going to join this community or apply needs to be someone, if they knocked on our personal residence at 11 o'clock at night,
would we help them?
And they needed a bed, they needed a ride, they needed food, they just needed help, doors open, come on in. And if you think about a lot of organizations, whether it's a networking group, whether it's a chamber, whether it's whatever you want to call it, a professional organization, what's the vetting process that these have?
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's as long as no one does what you do.
I'm only smirking because I could go so many different directions with that.
Yeah, go for it.
No, nothing like that. But no, it's interesting when you say that. I think that's a very interesting way to say, someone knocks on my door at 11 o'clock at night, am I inviting them in or not?
And if I'm not inviting them in, it's not someone that I would want to surround myself with. And it's not that I'm better than someone else.
Right.
It's just culture. And if I'm inviting that person in, they're probably going to meet my family. They might meet my friends if they stop by, maybe not at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
I'm not a tequila guy.
Right. Nothing good happens with tequila at 11 o'clock at night.
I've been in rooms before where not only do I not want to invite my friends to come into a room, but I don't want to, I look at someone, I wrote a blog years ago, is someone an asset or a liability? Mm-hmm. An asset complements your world, a liability complicates it.
Right.
And in business and networking, a lot of people are, there's a term called commission breath, where people are just trying to pitch and sell, or tell what they do to try to make a sale. And what ends up happening is that person gets turned off, and it's like, hey, you need a mint of refreshment, because whatever the case is. Eddie, I think what you do in your world, and first off, being uncomfortable is tremendously important. Think about the things that you enjoy doing. You're a sports guy. You like to watch sports. You're into football. You're into hockey. I think you like a beverage.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when you surround yourself in environments where you can talk sports with people, you can talk about sales leadership because people want to better themselves. When you're around people that you feel inspired, you feel motivated, you feel elevated, it's a really special feeling to have. And so many people, especially through COVID, they lost a lot of their friends. I'm not talking about passing away. Maybe they lost friends, but friend circles kind of changed. Yep. The environment changed. The landscape of relationships changed, and you really should surround yourself with people that you want to be around, people that make you better.
Don't they say, especially the kids in high school and in college, surround yourself with people that you see, surround yourself with success to dictate your future.
Next question.
Well, I'm still, so where are we?
Looking at a clock.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So where are we now with the business?
So right now we have 150 members. Mm-hmm. We are coming up, we're about 3.5 years old since we launched the
it's a virtual company for the most part?
No, so we have our app keeps our members connected 24/7, but we do a lot in person. We have about 15 different events a month.
Okay.
Some of them are member-led events. We encourage our members to share things that they're passionate about. So if it's hiking, skiing, kayaking, bonfires, wineries, breweries. So if a member wants to host something, they would fill something out in our app, and it would get approved, and then we'd post it. We usually ask for about a month advance notice. And then the other 2/3 of events that we have are either social events like morning coffee socials, evening happy hour socials, like that you say the happy hour thing from before. Mm-hmm. And then also 1/3 of our events are growth events, business focused. So peer-to-peer masterminds that we called Nooks. We have right now 10 of them, Nooks. So going back to the Danish philosophy, if you think of like a cozy corner in a coffee shop.
A nook.
Right.
A nook.
Okay.
So our Nooks are private. They meet once a month for 2 hours over a meal. Breaking bread allows you to open up, share, and it's very vulnerable. Our members will open up about things that they're going through in life and business. 10 members, 2 facilitators in every one of our Nooks. We have about 10 of them right now, and we don't allow guests. These are your set kind of your
What's a facilitator? Like, are you a facilitator?
I am a facilitator, yes. We have about 14 facilitators right now, and the facilitators, in our app, we use something called gamification. So if you're unfamiliar with gamification, it's basically a reward perk for how involved you are. Mm-hmm. So as a finance guy and as a sales guy, you've heard of the term ROI.
Yeah,
we have a different variation of it. So for us, ROI stands for return on inclusion. How do you include yourself? How are you helping others around you? If you're just trying to help yourself, then you're probably not including yourself.
So you're measuring kind of participation and inclusion. It's not so much I'm a finance guy and I picked up some business from the networking group. It's more that, hey, I participated, I met somebody.
2 events. And
I learned about wine tasting, or I went hiking. And
you built a relationship.
Right.
You got to know Eddie. You got to know about his family, his kids.
Yep.
1-2-1. Yeah, no.
So I always say, I sell by not selling.
You're yourself.
Right.
Yeah, one of our sayings, the famous quote is by Oscar Wilde, but it's be yourself, everyone else is taken. And being a business owner, and Eddie, I understand that you're an employee of Pods, but I also know that you're a business owner between the podcast, between your book. And, I think it's a very different mentality, when you're building a business, building a brand that you represent. And not all of our services or offerings work for everybody.
Right.
But I think that when you can just be yourself, build a relationship that's authentic, get to know somebody for who they are. I might not be a big fan of hockey or football, but I'm a huge bonfire fan. Like in my backyard, I have a sick bonfire pit I built by hand. It's 6 feet wide. I love inviting people over. One of my favorite things is to gather people. And there's a Japanese culture called, or philosophy called Ikigai. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
No.
Ikigai. So Ikigai.
I know Cobra Kai.
No, yeah. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means reason for being. So if you, Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Why, and Ikigai has been around far longer than that. So Ikigai is the center, and it's what you're good at, what the world needs,
right.
what you can be paid for, and what you enjoy. And then there's the vocation, the profession, the skill sets and everything else. And when you find something that speaks to who you are, makes a difference in the world, you can get paid for it, you enjoy it, that's your Ikigai. So for me, I really built a business not just as a solution, but like for me, there was really nothing out there I wanted to join. I maybe would have gotten involved in your organization. Maybe I would have been number 33.
I have to say, listening to you talk about your values, your moral compass, what the group is about, and it has nothing to do with passing leads, which I love. I think that's amazing. Counting participation as importance in your team. I love that. Because I'm the guy who participates. I'm the guy who, when I left that trade show, that conference on Friday morning, went up to the president and said, I want to be part of the committee that puts on this event in the fall.
You're involving yourself.
She just looked at me like, you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I already have a great idea for the event. She's like, tell me, what is it? I said, I'm going to custom build 2 beautiful cornholes that have pods on it. Like, it's going to be my logo. And we're going to have cornhole competition during the conference, but not a game. Just everyone's got to throw one in. Who gets it in? Next round, like a March Madness type thing, so to speak. And they were like, you're in. But that's me. That's my personality. I want to jump in with both feet.
Yeah. If you think of like a Facebook post, imagine reading on Facebook like, in search of this, I need help with this, or
right.
hey, I'm going through this, and Facebook's usually a place where people just talk about like the good stuff. Like I have 3 kids, I post on Facebook all the time, and I don't post on Facebook because I'm not really engaged on Facebook. I post because I want to see the memories.
Right.
I also post because people all the time are asking me how my family's doing, how the baby's doing.
Sure.
And they say, oh, so you went to the Bronx Zoo, or so you went to the children's
brought back a
museum.
great memory. I took my kids there.
It's like you feel like you know a person without even speaking to them.
Exactly. And in our app, in our community, and one of the things, being that it's private and vetted, our members are opening up, understanding that every single one of our members passed the same vetting process. They all earn their invitation in. If I share that I'm struggling with something, I'm not just commenting, but I'm reaching out to you to say like, hey, Mark, I saw your post. I've been there and I know what you're going through. Let's put time on the calendar. When's as soon as we can meet so I can try to help and support you.
Right.
And that's really what community means to me, is that support. I recently, I know you're a Comac guy.
I got to jump in here because we got to get to our last 2 questions.
Go for it. Do it.
We're there. You take the second to last. I'll take the last.
Sure.
5 years.
Well, 5 years are the 3 dinner guests.
No, I did the dinner.
Oh, sorry.
Really?
Sorry. So we've covered a bunch of stuff. Business is up, running. Where do you now see yourself in 5 years?
So we will be a regional company, national throughout the United States. We will have, could very likely be international. We have some members that are moving out of state that our concept is we're not a franchise, but we have a franchise model in a Hugo way, and that's to really find other leaders like myself, like people like Eddie, that are in different parts of the country that want to grow and build, and our systems, our technology, our background, our guides. We have something called a guide of guides, where literally there's a process and a guide for every single part of our business. So from a scalability perspective, whether we have 150 members or 1 million members, it really doesn't change anything. It's just taking this model and moving it regionally, replicating, yes.
All right, this is the funnest question of the day. You can have dinner with anybody in the history of the world, alive or dead. Who do you want to have dinner with? 3-hour dinner.
3-hour dinner.
Anyone.
I would say it would probably have to be a relative.
Yeah, you got to give me someone. You can't say probably, maybe. Who do you want to have dinner with?
I'm an emotional dude.
Yeah, he's digging deep. I see it. Yeah, I get it.
So in sake of time,
yeah, because I would look over there.
my dad is still alive. My dad's one of my best friends.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Having dinner
That's
with your
good.
dad. I wish I felt that way about my dad. I really do. I'm jealous. So we're going to say our thank yous. We'll let you grab a minute. You want to say how we could reach out to Mark
Sure.
at the Integritas Group?
Integritas Group, our new website just launched, semholdings.com. We will be at the NRF show in Dallas, Texas in June as well, which we're looking forward to. 917-414-4027 for any loss prevention issues that you may have.
I'm going to let you go because I got a rabbit myself. So how do we get in touch with you if we were interested?
I look at this camera,
Yeah.
right?
How do we get in touch to be part of your family?
LinkedIn me, connect with me, Adam Holtzer. I'm not going to give you my cell phone number. I'm guessing that's not your cell phone number that you use.
It is. Oh, yeah, no, it is.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. LinkedIn me. We'll keep it that way. And check out whoga.com. WHOGGA.
3 G's Glenn. Got it. I'm Eddie Podge, your host. You could reach me if you need a storage container, have a special event, or you're moving. You can get me at eadelman@pods.com, or you could call me at 631-334-8587. If you are doing a trade show in the next couple of months and you want a little pregame tip, give me a call. Let me come into the office, talk to the team, share with you on how we're going to make that happen. And if you're interested in that, you can get me at eddiepods@gmail.com. We are out. It's been a great show.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
See you all next week.
Thank you. Cheers.